Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the We the Locals podcast. My name is Josie.
I'm Jessica.
And we got Stu pushing buttons in the corner.
Hello.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. If you could please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to our episode and our channel, we greatly appreciate it. Maybe grab the link and text it out to your neighbors, your family, your friends, your precinct people in your precinct, whoever might want to hear about all things local. And if you would like to support our channel, I'm sorry, I'm a little tired. I didn't write all my notes like I usually do. If you'd like to support our channel, either by a sponsorship if you're a business or a candidate and you'd like to get your name out there, please let us know. You can reach us through our website, or if you would just like to drop us a few dollars to keep our lights on, we'd appreciate that as well. Everything we do is self-funded, and any donations that you can make towards our cause to keep us on the air would be greatly appreciated. This episode is pre-recorded. We are recording on Thursday, December 4th. So I believe we're going to try to drop it tonight, on the 4th, but just in case. So, there is no editing of anything involved. We are not that good. Literally, we were like,
I'm getting better.
We're getting better. But Jessica's like, really, I literally hope that such and such doesn't happen, because if I have to go in and edit it because of a technical thing, that's going to be a problem. And I was like, yes, exactly. So let's not do that. So just rest assured that it's just us riffing and rambling and ranting. Ooh, 3 R's. Yeah. So what's up? How you doing? How was your Thanksgiving?
Good. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was good. I ate a lot. I cooked a lot, and I ate a lot.
I actually cooked this year, and I haven't cooked in probably 3 years or so. So I actually cooked this year.
What's your specialty dish? Or you're like, I have to have this for Thanksgiving?
Well, my turkey, I think, is the crowd favorite because I actually cook it in apple cider.
Ooh.
So it becomes really moist and it's really tender.
Juicy and yummy.
Yeah. It doesn't really flavor the chicken a whole lot, but then I do like a whole, or the turkey. I do a whole butter rub. So it's,
Yum.
So it's really good. And, I love like the traditional just mashed potatoes and gravy and, that kind of thing. Stuffing. And pumpkin
do you
pie.
stuff your turkey, or do you cook it on the side?
No, cook it on the side.
Cook it on the side. I don't actually know that many people that stuff it.
Yeah,
I didn't grow up that way, so we either fried our turkeys or we smoke our turkey now. And then my mom always made cornbread stuffing, cornbread dressing, as she called it, because it's like a Southern thing.
Yeah.
And so it's like the one dish that we have from the Southern side of the family, because my mom left the South and left all the food, left everything in the South. Like, she literally, I cannot remember a single time in my life where she made like Southern food and was like, this is Southern food ever, except for cornbread
dressing. That's all I grew up on was Southern food. My mother was her my grandparents were from Arkansas.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It was like traditional Southern cooking. There was a meat, a potato, and a vegetable every meal.
And bread. They eat bread.
And lots of butter. Like, you couldn't, we lived on butter.
All right, I'm hungry. So we should probably stop this conversation.
Exactly.
But I hope everyone had a happy Thanksgiving.
Exactly. Yes, I hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving. There's some things going on politically, but not so much like down to the local levels, just because of all our municipalities just got through qualifying. I think even 1 or 2 municipalities still have qualifying this week. So, when we do our next episode, hopefully we'll be able to know exactly who the candidates are. I'm hearing of 2 more people jumping into Florida Congress 22 in January. So we're looking at 5 to 6 candidates that's going to be running for Congress for Florida 22. They are talking about redistricting at the state level this week as well. So there's going to be some talk about that.
Will they have to do that? That has to go through session, right? They'll have to do that during session? A bill? Is it by bill, or is it by order?
It's by order. My understanding is that the House and the Senate sign off on it, and then it kind of goes into effect. So I heard that it may be a special session after session that they do it.
Oh, that's cutting it real close
to
qualifying.
Right. So these are all just kind of rumors that are going on. And I think it's a way for the House, leadership to kind of set the playing field for 2026. So I'm, we're hearing, here in Palm Beach County, we have Congress District 22, we have 23, we have 20 and 21, right? Mast is 21?
I think so.
Yeah. So, we have a lot of Congress, seats just in Palm Beach County. So, and technically they consider us still blue. So they're trying to make sure that we have less Congress oversight as far is what it looks like. So it's going to be interesting how that redistricting turns out, but we probably will lose at least one seat.
From the county,
which
is crazy because I was listening. So there was a special election in Tennessee this week, for the congressional District 7, and it was funny. I was listening to the Republican candidate being interviewed on one of the podcasts I was listening to, which is interestingly enough, he's a Night Stalker. He's a Army vet, which Night Stalkers are the Black Hawk pilots, and I think it's Black Hawk. Oh my gosh, my husband's gonna yell at me if I get this wrong because his cousin was a Night Stalker also, and so cool. Like we have like Night Stalker stickers in our house, and the kids are it's a really really cool unit. Anyway, it's just funny to hear them talk about like the people in their districts, and like he's like, the 7 counties that this district represents, and I'm like, 7 counties. Gosh, that's right. People live in small counties are not the size of states.
Yep.
In some areas, because here Palm Beach County is almost the size of some of these tiny states.
We're very unique. I mean, we have 39
I forget that sometimes.
Right. So it's like you have 39 municipalities in Palm Beach County, and then there's 67 counties, I think, in the state.
Yeah. So many counties.
So it's but like we alone, where most counties, maybe have 1 or 2 municipalities or a handful, where we have 39. And so I'm going to kind of talk about that a little bit because I did watch the Board of County Commissioners workshop meeting that was the end of last month. And they kind of broke down the property tax things that are going through. And so I want to give a shout out and kudos to Administrator Abruzio, because he is on top of this. Mm-hmm. He has really started to dive into the aspects. And I think an episode or 2 ago, I mentioned like Abruzio said to the Board of County Commission that they were working on proposals of doing a 5, 10, 15, and 20% reduction in their departments. So it just shows
such a wide range of numbers.
But it shows that he's very connected to what's going on, because he seems to know that something is coming, and he wants the county to be as prepared as possible. And so so that was really good news that, Abruzzo is kind of like on top of this, and then they incorporated in this workshop the different aspects. And if you go to palmbeach.gov and go under the 2027 budget, the PDF that they actually talked about in the workshop is already online. So you can actually take a look. And so I'm going to be kind of talking about a few things about that. Like it says, like, what is a millage? So it actually says a mill equals $1 of assessed is $1 assessed for each $1,000 of taxable value. A property valued at $250,000 pays $250 per mill. The property value is set by the property appraiser, and it kind of goes over like what homestead property values are and non-homestead properties. And we kind of got a breakdown of the municipality or of the homesteaded properties versus non-homesteaded properties. So first I want to dive into the Board of County Commissioner meeting that was on 11/18. A couple things that was interesting that was brought up was St. Andrews in Boca is looking to annex.
They want to be annexed?
Yeah.
St. Andrews. Like the development?
Yeah. So the
country club?
Yeah. So
that's a big tax base.
Yeah. So
and not that big of
well, I guess Boca approached, I don't know who approached who, But I believe that it was part of Boca's annexation plan regardless. So it looks like the new administrator for the city of Boca is moving forward to do that. So one of the things that was brought up by Commissioner Sachs was that Boca just kind of announced this, and then there was news articles about it, but nobody told the county. And so Sachs was a little upset with the city, saying, like, if you want to take, if you want to...
maybe that's why the commissioner wasn't invited to the parade. I don't know if she wasn't. It wasn't that she wasn't invited. It was just...
So it
could be. Maybe they're ticked.
So it was interesting because it was like, Sachs was just like, just have a conversation with us. Let us know what's going on so we can be kind of understanding. If they want to be part of the city, that's fine. It's their prerogative. It's their tax dollars. But also at the same time, like, work with us. Don't try to, work against us. So
I wonder if our new city manager is not used to working with
that's what I'm
governmental
about.
Situation.
Yeah. So also at that 11/18 meeting, Todd Von Laren actually announced he's going to be retiring in April.
Oh, good for him.
So he'll be at 30 years, I think,
with
just
the county?
After January,
Wow.
30 years. And so, he's the deputy administrator, one of the deputy administrators. He does a lot to do with the county. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about why I think that that's significant in a little bit. But, and then also at that meeting, Administrator Abruzzo said that he's going to revamp the agenda process. So the commissioners have been talking about, and this was one of the biggest complaints that I had when I worked on the 12th floor, was that there was no time to actually research the 100+ items
very true. Yeah.
On each thing. And so we got like a bird's eye view, and we could ask as many questions as we wanted, and but it's like also at the same time, it's like not that I felt like things were pushed through, but it was almost like they were trying to just put as much on there as humanly possible to be able to get it through the process and get things moved forward. And so I agree with that to a point, but also is that if you have commissioners that aren't really in it for the representation of their constituents, this is where you get a lot of staff and bureaucracy kind of pushing things through,
running the government
and running the show.
Running the show, yeah.
And so it at that point when the commissioners get an agenda review, that's their opportunity to ask any questions. Now, they can pull anything off the agenda. They can, the consent agenda, they can talk about anything. They can ask for things to be tabled. They have a lot of options before, it even goes to the official meeting. So, but what happens is if you have a commissioner, and thankfully I didn't work for a commissioner that was like this, but you have commissioners that just don't really pay attention to everything. And so they just kind of go through and, staff approved it, so it's good to go in my eyes. Where it was like we have a few commissioners on staff, on the board that actually want to talk about these things and really bring highlight. And the last few meetings, I've also noticed that Commissioner Sachs has been taking a lot of things, and Commissioner Powell actually have been taking a lot of things off of consent and talking about them on the dais. And she'll say, like, I just want transparency on this. I just want transparency on this. I just want to talk this through and have it on the record, and then I'm voting for it. But I want it to be said.
So let me remind, for if you're new or you don't know what the consent agenda is, pretty much all governments have that I've sat through, all the commission and council meetings I've sat through, they have an agenda, and that is the process of all the items that they are going to be discussing as a board. Remember, they're all under sunshine law, so nobody has discussed any, or they shouldn't have, or they can go to jail, has discussed any of the, which has happened, not in our time in government, but it's happened. They go through the agenda, and they go through and they discuss each of those items. So they have what's called the consent agenda, where staff takes usually smaller things, either under a certain amount, like if it's an approval for a contract, or if it's that's usually what a lot of it is, an approval to renew the contract with the landscaper.
I think it's below $250,000. I think it's
different thresholds for different entities. So whether it's county or city, it's different thresholds. But it's basically something that is and it's not something that's usually controversial. It's not something that the board necessarily will have a lot of discussion on. And so they put it on under one agenda item, essentially, is the consent agenda. And then then they pass that on one vote. So they take one vote to vote for sometimes anywhere from 2 items to like 50 items. Just depends on what it is. And so that's the consent agenda. And so any one of the people on the board, commissioners or council members, can pull something off the consent agenda and turn it into its own agenda item. But if they don't prepare for that ahead of time or do that before that consent agenda is passed, then those items are passed. Yep. So just to kind of give if you're new or don't know what that means, the consent agenda, that's what that is. And it's very common. And it's a way to keep things moving in a meeting where you've got literally hundreds of things that they have to vote on. It's where you have like a
lot of transfer of money happening, or like airports, like airports is run through the county, but it's kind of its own department. Like the county doesn't actually fund things through the airports. The airport funds itself, but there's still a governing body against how money is divvied out or how contracts are done, things of that nature. So you kind of get, it's just a checks and balances, is what a lot of that is. And, so that's where the sleight of hand can also happen as well.
Yeah, it's something you have to watch for.
Exactly. And so, like you're able to talk on the consent agenda as well. So, and everything's posted and listed of what was on the consent agenda. If you look online what the agenda is, they just don't go through it point by point.
For like discussion purposes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So
anyway, I just wanted to give that background.
So I like the idea of that they want to make it so that things come up on the agenda, giving the county commission more time to review, and not have so many things on a particular agenda. So, I think that is great. I think that just means that Abruzzo is listening to the county commissioners because, over the last, 3 years now that I've been watching county commission meetings, that's probably been the one complaint that every commissioner has, especially like once they start to get on, they're like, wait, where did this come from? And it's been through the process for the last 2 years, they talked about it 2 years ago. And then now you have a new, commissioner that got elected and they're like, hey, wait a minute, how did this money get spent? Where did it get here? And so they're not given enough.
It's like trial by fire for these commissioners.
And so it's like they're not given, in their view, they're not given enough information to be able to vote on it, or, and this happened with Milani Park, so it was like it worked through the process. And then Flores was like, hey, what about, they don't want this. Why are we doing this? Without realizing like this had gone through a process for the last 3 years. Yeah. This is something that had been talked about, that had been done. And then here he wants to stick a fork in it. And so, I love the fact that Abruzzo is paying attention and he's looking to kind of revamp this process and get more community input as well. So, I'm pretty impressed with him so far. He's only been in the job a few months, and it's been, but he's bringing good things to the table. So there on 11/25, there was a workshop. And it was really about the tax proposals that are coming through
for property tax changes.
For property tax changes, yes. So a couple,
which we've talked about a lot. If you want to go back and watch previous episodes on that, feel free to. I'm sure we'll talk about it again, but it has been talked about a lot on this show.
Exactly. And so there was a few little data points that I think people would be interested in. So right now, Palm Beach County has 1.6 million residents. 57% of our residents live in one of our 39 municipalities. So 43% live in unincorporated Palm Beach County.
Huh.
So a lot of people may not know that.
I didn't know that.
Taxable value, we have 659,000 parcels. 61% of them are non-homesteaded parcels. So that means 39% are homesteaded. So
less than half.
Yeah.
Way less than half, actually. That's interesting.
Yep. And so when you look at parcel comparison, we still have more homesteaded than non-homesteaded. So it gets a little confusing, but like I said, you can look on palmbeach.gov, look at the government or the budget for 2027. Right to the right-hand side of the screen, there's a PDF. And so you can click on that PDF and it will show you all of the things that I'm talking about tonight. So 27% of those homesteaded values are for people under 65. 70% of homesteaded properties or parcels are owned by 65 years and older.
70%?
Yep.
Good grief.
And that's because they're the only ones that could have afforded to buy here when they're here.
Wow, I didn't realize I was in such a minority being a homeowner at my age. I have a homesteaded property.
Yeah. So I thought that was very interesting. So if you're 65 and older, I could really understand why you want tax property relief, you know, because I get it, you know, and there's a lot of our homesteaded properties that are going up that 3% every single year. Based on that new assessed value. So our current county budget is $9.6 billion.
That's insane.
And 22.6% of that $9.6 billion budget is from property taxes.
That's it.
That's
22%.
22.6%, which is roughly $2.1 billion. And 22% of the 22.6% is just for public safety.
22% of the 22% is public safety.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I need one of those charts with the guy with the string.
So,
with the red string. Trying to tie all this together for me. I need a whiteboard.
Right?
I should have brought my whiteboard for us to do like math.
So, right. I wish I would have thought I would have plugged it onto the screen because you could see the screen behind us.
That's right.
Now, so let me see if I can
keep watching because next time we'll have something on our screen back there.
Yeah.
Not this. Maybe this. Well, I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know. So so it's very interesting of how that the 22%.
I like the pie charts. They're pretty colors.
Yeah, and it helps you kind of understand. So when we talk about taxable, like what is funded from our ad valorem taxes of that 22%, it's really the departments within the government. So this is also going to kind of play into, and if you follow us on X, you probably would have saw my post that I posted today that highlighted the Blazing Gloria CFO FAFO press conference that was today, where they talked about Palm Beach County and the overspending in Palm Beach County. So when he's talking about the overspending in Palm Beach County, he's actually talking about our government departments that have grown and increased in size. And our Board of County departments of that budget is $609 million is the county departments. And let's see, should I mention that now or should I go back into it?
I don't know.
Let's combine it together so that it kind of makes sense for people. So at the press conference today, Blazing Gloria announced that Palm Beach County overspent by $344 million.
It's insane.
Okay, so he's saying that does not include public safety. That is basically just departments and salaries.
Yeah, but does he give a breakdown?
No, he doesn't.
Which I need a breakdown.
And so my first thought was, tell me something I didn't know.
Yeah.
Because I was like, and if you've been a long time watcher of our show, I know that I have said this several times, is that if you want to reduce spending here in Palm Beach County, you're going to have to take away services. Mm-hmm. What department services are you going to reduce? And I actually worked for the county government for 8 months. I made $65,000 a year and I could not survive. I could not pay my bills.
Well, the average household median income in Palm Beach County is 6 figures. So no kidding. Right. That makes sense.
So, so I get, like our county administrator, and I didn't check to see what Abruzzo makes. I didn't check
I think
his
it's pretty.
contract.
I think it's comparable to what Virginia was making.
Yeah, so it was like almost $400,000 or over $400,000 if I'm not
Probably.
mistaken. So, it's a lot of money. But again, you couldn't pay me $1 million to take that job. I'm telling you, like the stress
You're the
and the
CEO of a $9 billion a year company.
Yeah. So it's like, yes, it's a lot of money, but also at the same time, you don't have a life. You have to live, breathe, everything is wrapped up. Everything you do 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, including holidays, 365 days a year, is wrapped up in what this county is doing. Now, I'm not saying that there's not support staff, but I mean, I watched Virginia work, and love her, hate her, whatever you want to say. Like she didn't take vacations. She didn't, she was working. She was very involved in everything that was going on and everything that the county commissioners asked of her. So, not saying I agreed with everything that she did. I want to make very clear about that. But also at the same time, like I said, just seeing what I saw, I'm like, that woman doesn't get paid enough in my mind. Like, because of the fact that it is a lot. And then her deputies, I think Todd Von Laren makes over $200,000 a year. I think Patrick Rutter makes over $200,000.
I mean, it's all got to be public record. So
oh yeah,
look it up. So.
It definitely is. But I want to say, last I looked, I want to say she was just over 4, and they were like pushing 3, if I'm not mistaken, 300,000. So that is a lot in salaries. I'm not saying that it's not. Your average CEO, maybe, a few $100,000 is what an average business owner may make. But that doesn't mean that that's what they bring home either, because you have taxes and everything on top of that. So when you're talking this, and when I first started looking at the budget, our salaries for our county, just in service level, regular, like community services, the water department, whatever, they don't get paid very much. You're looking at like $50,000 a year.
Government, it's historically known that government jobs are not very high paying. So where's all the money go?
Right. So it's going to these heads of departments, but you can't, and Blaze kind of really talked about this. He's like, look, he goes, you have competing counties. So Palm Beach County and Broward are famous for this, right? So they want to keep employees. They want to keep people working for them. So they're like, oh, so Palm Beach County goes, oh, Broward just started to pay their administrator, $300,000.
Yeah, they have to like keep that like one up almost.
Right.
Each other.
And so Blaze was like, but you're not paying attention to the average citizen. And I'm like, well, that doesn't work here, because as Josie just said, our average citizen in Palm Beach County makes about $100,000 a year. So our government employees do not make that. So in order for this to work, and I'm going to go back to the taxes thing in a minute, because like I said, if he is determining that $344 million is
wasteful spending
that can just be cut out, and our Board of County Commission departments currently run 24.7% of our general fund, which is like $2.4 billion, that you're looking at $609 million, almost $610 million just in our Palm Beach County departments. Okay. So 344,000 of that he is saying could be cut out today.
That's half.
Is that
half the department's jobs?
Yes. So that's what you're going to be looking at. So are these positions, are they necessary? Is the salaries necessary? Are you going to? So I find it interesting that Todd Von Laren just announced his retirement.
Is he reading the writing on the wall?
I'm wondering.
I mean, he's pretty young.
He is, but he has been with the county 30 years. But, at the same time, like, I think it's very obvious. And with Abruzzo saying, like, you need to come up with your departments and find out where you're going to cut 5, 10, 15, and 20%.
Huh. You know who else is retiring?
Who?
The executive director of the Solid Waste Authority.
Yes, I did hear that too.
Yeah, we just confirmed. I had a meeting this week, so we just confirmed his replacement.
Oh.
Is it was the executive, the second in command, who was like, who like they listen. I think, but they also are its own bit of budgeting. A lot of the money that runs the Solid Waste Authority doesn't come from the county.
Right.
It's a partnership with the county, not necessarily under the county the way that the rest of the departments are.
It has oversight by the Board of County Commission.
Oversight, but it's because we pay as residents, we pay directly to them. Mm-hmm. So it's its own taxing district essentially, even though it's not an ad valorem tax, it's a flat tax. But it's its own taxing district. So its funding comes from other places. And they're one of those fiscally responsible organizations in Palm Beach County. Like, let me just tell you, like when I look at the budgets and I look at like how we're able to get amazing like bond prices, like bond percentages and stuff, it's just it's been such a well-run entity. And I found out this week too. I mean, I knew that people from all over the world come to tour our facilities because we have state-of-the-art, literally of the
highly recommended
tour. I'm organizing one now for our homeschool friends.
Cool.
All the kids, my kids want to go back. They love going. But like they were listing today at the last meeting this week, he was listing all the countries that have come in. I think they said, who did they say is coming in next week? I can't remember. I wrote it down somewhere. But countries like recently in the last few years, Bangladesh, Israel, what else did they say? Indonesia, Brazil. They've had like high level elected officials from Brazil many times coming in to look at what we do here. And it's just super cool. All that to say, I wonder, he said he wanted to retire on his birthday. I wonder if there's I don't know if it's related. I just find it interesting. Fun fact.
Yeah. So now I'm wondering, Tammy Fields has also announced her retirement. So she was a deputy administrator as well. Huh. So in this last 6 months, or so, you had Virginia, Tammy, and then now Todd Van Varen, and then Assimi left. Well, when she didn't get the job. So it's just interesting. We're not saying anything. You know what? We'll borrow a line from our all-time favorite podcaster. We're just asking questions. No, I'm just kidding. And I'm being very sarcastic about that. I hope everyone can read that. I do not need that cut and sent all over about anything. We're just asking questions. Right. So, and then
it's interesting information.
Exactly. So then if you break down the $609 million, right? So Abruzio, when he does his 5, 10, 15, and 20, even at 20%, it only cuts $110 million.
That's not even close to what Ngogli, whatever his name is.
Ngolia.
I can't say it.
I know. Blaze.
So
what FAFO found, is still way more than that.
I want to see what there has to be somewhere where they say these are the things that were wasteful spending. They can't just come up with a number and say this is the wasteful spending. It has to have line items with it.
Well, if you look on the PowerPoint that I'm talking about, is that you can actually see what's funded, the line items that's actually funding that $609 million.
Right, but what does he identify as the wasteful spending?
So a couple things that point out to me is Palm Tran is $80 million.
Which we've known is a money suck and a problem.
Is a problem. And then youth services is $20 million. County commission is $5 million. So
what does that mean, county commission?
So like the county commission departments.
Oh, so like their salaries and stuff like that.
Yeah,
okay. And their staff districts,
right?
Staff.
So and then you have like environmental resource management, $24 million.
Environmental resource management.
So this is where it gets into the bureaucracy that Angolia was talking about today. Because when we increase, let me put this into context. So is what the CFO did is they took the 2019-2020 budget before COVID, and then they adjusted it for increase of inflation and increase of residents. We increased residents by 88,000 residents.
Shut up.
Between
so many people.
between 2019 and 2025. This might be 2024 numbers, maybe not 2025.
88,000.
So 88,000. So in his calculation is that the county government for those 88,000 is justifying basically a $10,000 increase per person of that 88,000. So he's saying 88,000 came into the county, and each one of those has now cost the county an additional $10,000.
Huh.
So he's not wrong if you do the basic math and that aspects. And this is something that, I know that I've talked about is I'm like, we have increased the size of government here in Palm Beach County. There's no doubt about that. And then you have to have the salaries and everything about, that go on top of that. Now, one of Virginia's things that she was always very proud of was that if she created a program, it came from state or federal funding. Mm-hmm. And then if the funding went away, the program went away, mm-hmm. and those salaries went away. They were not going to be absorbed by the county.
Budgets.
However, when you look at environmental resources management, I mean, what is that? What is, I'm all
Parks?
about, parks and everything. Parks and recreation is $92 million, and it's a separate line item.
So environmental resources, is that like the EPA?
I think that is more of like your Green New Deal type stuff at the Palm Beach County level. Like how to environmental.
That's because that's not Solid Waste Authority.
No.
Is that a line item in there?
No. Because it's self-sufficient.
Right.
So, I mean, like airports, it's self-sufficient. There's
right.
so many. The sheriff is kind of, yes, it's part of
what did Blaze say about the sheriff, Jessica?
Oh, gosh. Okay. Well, I want to get into that,
okay.
but let me talk about a couple other things here. Information system services is $51 million. So just for us to inform residents is $51 million.
And people complain that they don't know anything.
That they don't get enough information.
There's no transparency and nobody knows what's going on.
Office of Community Revitalization is only $2 million. Office of Equal Opportunity is $2 million. Office of Fiscal Management and Budget is $5 million. So it's like, if you look, what I'll do is I will take a screenshot of this and I will try to plug it into the episode so you can actually see it.
So my husband just texted me. I just keep an eye on the phone in case anything crazy happens. And he texted me, literally just texted me a post about this. And it says, it's from Eric Dougherty on X. Holy crap, in a jaw-dropping revelation, the chief financial officer of Florida audited Palm Beach County and found $344 million in waste, fraud, and abuse. I said, we're literally talking about it right now. Thank you.
So it's like, and I've seen this budget, and it's like, you look through and it's like, okay, so what do you cut? What do you say, like, this isn't important? So you have to really dig into these departments and find out where the money is going in these departments, and being able to say, like, okay, is the department head making the most money? And then therefore the worker is only making, $30,000-$40,000, but it's got a $5 million budget, so it's like, you really have to kind of, like I said, Blaze is not wrong. I don't feel that he's wrong at all, because I've looked at these numbers myself. But it's like, at the end of the day,
it's not that simple.
Correct.
I think
not that simple.
I think it's easy for us who are on the outside to just look at it and be like, oh my gosh, well, let's just cut our budget. Okay, so this who do you cut and how do you cut? And it doesn't mean that it doesn't have to happen, but we do have to understand that it's a process to actually go in and do the investigation and look at, like what Jessica's saying, and be like, okay, these are people's jobs, these are people's lives, and it is what it is. Plenty of people in the private sector get fired all the time because the company has to cut budgets. Like, that happens all the time. So I'm not opposed to it happening in the public sector either. Right. It's just, we get a front row seat to it. I guess is a little different than when we're looking at the private sector.
Housing and Economic Development Department, $19 million, but we have a housing issue. So why are we spending $20 million and still having a housing issue?
So I have no responses.
Right. So like I said, he's not
Give me more.
wrong.
Give me more. What else? So the information. I'm stuck on the information services one that I find. It's gonna block my camera. Okay, I'm just gonna look at it real quick.
I'll just take that off. There.
Okay, go ahead.
So it's like
continue.
And like I said, I will try to take a screenshot of that and plug it into the side to this section of the video. Let me, Stu, do you have a time mark right now?
39:52.
Thank you.
3:54.
Okay, thank you. So I will put up that particular slide that they showed of where the $600 million of the departments, and this is where based on the conference today, this is where I am assuming, because this is direct ad valorem taxes funds this $609 million, that he's saying that $344 million of it is just considered wasteful spending.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What's public safety?
I think that's outside of the sheriff's department.
What does that mean?
I don't know. Could be like emergency management.
Risk management is only $500,000.
Yep.
That seems odd.
Well,
we're just letting ourselves be risky.
If you underfund it, then they don't find.
Then there's nothing risky.
They don't find anything.
Well, and I also find it interesting that there is a department of it. There's the internal audit and
we have an internal
commission
auditor.
on ethics.
Yep.
There's a commission on ethics, which they operate. I know what they do because I've had to watch their videos. Is they make you watch all the videos on sunshine laws.
Correct. Make sure you don't go to jail.
Make sure you don't go to jail. Fire, rescue, and dispatch, drowning, and prevention.
So again, one of the things, this does not include the sheriff's budget. And one of the biggest things about Republicans here in Palm Beach County, so I'm going to get back to Josie's question about what did Blaze and Gloria say about the sheriff's budget. So our sheriff's budget just increased to $1 billion this year. So when you look at, and a lot of Republicans were up in arms with Sheriff Bradshaw's budget. Of it being, and I've mentioned on the show that we're nearing, we're like a half of a trillion, so $500 billion in property value. So if you're looking at 1 billion, that's a very small, minuscule percentage of our property value, right? So according to the CFO, Blaze Angolia, today, he said that the sheriff's budget here in Palm Beach County is actually saving the county $11 million, that he is actually very fiscally responsible, and he is actually saving the county $11 million. Now, I just want it on the record, and if you've seen these other videos, I have said that his budget is not out of control when you start to think it and look at all of it. Now, we'd like to have it exposed. We'd like to know what those information are, and we have the best of everything, but we want the best of everything when it comes to that.
The president lives in our freaking
Correct.
County. Guys,
correct.
The president,
and that includes even that protection detail as well.
Yeah,
so
that
was
$1 billion
that was put into that, and that was his reason for increasing it to $1 billion, was because of the fact that the president does live here, and even if after he's out of office, he still needs that protection. Mm-hmm. So I find it very interesting when Republicans are all up in arms about Sheriff Bradshaw's budget and that it's a problem, but you have the CFO basically saying that he is under budget.
It almost seems like Republicans want to defund the police. That's what it sounds like sometimes. Just saying. It does. When they're like, we shouldn't fund the sheriff.
Well, this is what happens when you go into the partisan politics, because Bradshaw is technically, he's a Democrat. He ran as a Democrat, but he is very fiscally conservative. Now, do we agree with everything that he does and everything that he says? No, absolutely not. But he has kept us safe for the last 20 years. And when I ran Lauro Diaz's campaign, this was one of the things I was very clear about. If we were going to go up against, if we won the primary and we were going to go up against Bradshaw, it was about recognizing his 20 years of service and doing good by Palm Beach County, and that we wanted to just do better and bring more transparency to the office and make sure that we were continuing to be successful. He's getting up there in age, his health is declining, and I was not comfortable with keeping him in office for another 4 years, not knowing what the future was going to hold.
Right.
And that was the big thing about, me being involved in Lauro Diaz and running that race. Now, Michael Gauger, who won the primary, didn't acknowledge that about Bradshaw at all. He just attacked him and attacked his health. And this is why he lost, because of the fact that you're not looking at the whole picture. You're not looking at the overall encompassing of what the sheriff office actually brings. And not to mention, he runs the jails as well. So he runs, he runs that whole system where a lot of counties have that separated. And they pay for it separately. This is under the sheriff's budget. So that makes it even more. And it also explains why the first thing Bradshaw always says, you cut my budget, I cut mental health. And that is because that is an additional service that he has been providing for the county under his budget that he doesn't have to. So it's another way. And I think that's where that $11 million is really kind of, coming into play, because he's covering the jails, he's covering mental health, he's covering a lot of these services and things of keeping us safe, that is ultimately the county's responsibility. So I think it's very interesting how this is coming out and how this is going to actually play into our next year's budget. So we're in December right now. And so what happens starting in January, February?
Budget season again.
Exactly.
Here we go again. Back again.
This is where it's really important that you start to function and understand your county fiscal responsibility and your cities. It was also brought out in this workshop meeting that $40 million is basically just unfunded mandates from the state. So our county pays $40 million just to comply with state mandates.
Unlike what?
He didn't really go into the details, but my assumption is, little things that we've talked about, like home, that has kind of trampled on home rule here in Palm Beach County. The ballot boxes, the things that were changed, like you now needed to have two people, with elections.
Supervisor of election stuff, yeah.
Yeah, doing the ballot boxes.
I wonder the percentage of that $40 million, I wonder where which department that falls under the most. I'd be curious.
Yeah, that would be very interesting to know. So, but I highly recommend watching this workshop because it does go into the different proposals. One of the proposals was would cause a 90% reduction in departments. If
90%?
Yeah. Yep. Yep, 75% would have to come just straight out of salaries if that was to pass.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, and then there's another one that's up on the table that was to phase out property taxes over 10 years, $100,000 per year exemption until it got to zero, which I thought was interesting.
I feel like that's probably going to be the least dramatic.
Yeah.
For all of the entities involved.
Yeah, I like the idea of having a decrease over time. I don't think if you move here tomorrow, you should get your homestead exempted. Like, I just don't think that
I really hope that doesn't happen, because what will happen is then we'll see, people will just be moving here.
Right.
Constant. Like, we will explode. And all of the push that we're pushing against now, against the overdevelopment and the ruination of all of our green spaces, of all of our endangered species, of all of the things that make Florida a beautiful place to live, other than just a wall-to-wall concrete. Flooding. So when you flooding, a lot of this massive flooding in a lot of these areas of Florida are not because Florida is trying to sink back into the swamp. It's because when you pour so much concrete, there's nowhere for the water to go.
Right.
Water comes here because it rains a lot, and we are at sea level. But when you just pour concrete everywhere and you don't actually have good planning to deal with the water, then you're just, it flooded. No shit, Sherlock. Concrete doesn't absorb water like grass does. And so that if they take away, if they do that where you get you're homesteaded and you're exempted, Florida will be done. Like,
Yeah.
It'll become New York.
I like the
entire state will become New York.
the idea of a phase out program. So like this particular one was like $100,000 per year per exemption. And one thing that Blaze and Golia did mention too, which was pretty interesting, was that the current homesteaded percentage only covers 9.5% of your home. So when it started, the homestead exemption was $25,000. The average price of a home value at that time was $75,000. So it covered a third of your home. So you were only taxed on 2/3 of it. Well, now it only covers 9.5%. So now you're taxed on 90% of it.
Oh, so that's something they could do that would actually would be to make that a percentage rather than a flat rate.
That's a good idea, yeah.
So if they were to do, say, okay, if the idea is 1/3 or whatever, so 1/3 of the value of your home is where your homestead caps at, or where your homestead is, and then you're getting taxed on 2/3 of the value.
And I just want to, just putting it out there for shits and giggles and just bringing it to the attention. This is only ad valorem. This is not school board tax. This is not special taxing districts. This is just your ad valorem taxes. So keep that in mind. So this is, like I think I said, the school board is 58% of your tax bill. So this is less than 50%, it's less than 40% of your tax bill is what we're talking about right now. So you're not going to just not have to pay a tax bill.
People think that.
I know.
This is the biggest problem with this. When it goes to the ballot boxes, it's going to cause a massive uproar when people go to the ballot box and vote to remove property taxes, and then they get their tax bill and they're still paying property taxes. They're going to lose their ever-loving minds. It's going to be insane.
Yeah. Exactly. Why did I still get a tax bill? So another proposal for taxes was that 65 years and older are exempt. So that's just it. If you're over 65, you're exempt from
I don't
homestead.
disagree with that, but you should have bought your house within, it has to be time. You don't get to just retire here, turn 65, retire here, and suddenly you pay no taxes, and you've never paid a penny into the state that you've to live here. So I think it needs to be for if you've owned your home here for a certain amount of time, or you retired from a business here, you've lived here. I don't know how you got to work all that out, you people. That's why we elect you. I'm not elected, and I don't have to do that. I just get to give my 2 cents and yell at the internet. But it definitely should not be people because otherwise, again, then we'll really become the retirement states
for sure. Which we're already because 65 or 70% of our homesteaded parcels are owned by 65 years and older.
That's insane.
So it's interesting. So I totally agree with you, Josie, on that one. Another proposal was instead of a 3% increase every year, it's a 3% over 3 years for homesteaded. So that brings it down to 1% per year.
I like the percentage period. I like that you're taxed on a percentage, and that also then people, when you're going to buy a home, okay, I know I'm going to be paying 1/3 of the value of my home in proper, or 2/3 of the value of this house that I'm going to buy in property taxes. So I know that going into it, and it's not like this fun sticker shock of right. Oh,
and this special calculation that's involved, and then you sell your home, and then you can only have portability for part of it, and then if you buy a home that's less, it's so confusing.
It's so confusing.
It's so confusing. And Todd Bonlair and I will say did a great job explaining that. So be sure to watch it in this workshop because he does kind of break that down and break down the percentage, because I think it was Commissioner Woodward that actually asked a question about the portability and how that works. And I'm not getting into that. So if you're interested, be sure to watch it. Because it was it made my eyes gloss over for a minute. And so, and then another one was that if you wanted to increase,
thank you.
Bless you. One of the other things was that if any increase of the millage needed a 2/3 vote from taxpayers.
Huh. You'll never get that.
Right, exactly.
That's like the Save Boca thing, which I'm going to get into in a minute because
Yeah.
we had some developments on there.
And
you
so,
won't get that.
And so the biggest thing that it was kind of determined, so many of the commissioners freaked out when they heard, these proposals and were like, this isn't going to work, because of the fact that they were looking at this 609 million and a 20% was 110 million, I think it was. Now Blazing Gore saying 344 million. I'm sure like Commissioner Marino is losing her head right now. After this whole thing. Now, I will say Mayor Sarah Baxter was at that press conference, so it's going to be very interesting because this is something that she has actually been fighting for the last 3 years she's been in office, was more transparency of where the money in the budget is going. And so she sees this just like I see this, and it's like you can't really pick it apart. It's like, okay, I can kind of see the need for these departments. It's not until you get into the weeds of these departments do you actually find out. Like the Department of Business and equal opportunity, get rid of it. Like, what do we need that for?
And I'm on a board underneath that department.
Sorry, Josie.
I serve at the pleasure of the commissioners. Whether or not they want the board there, I don't know.
So,
Not sure.
Palm Beach County is a large county. And so, like we do have, like a good tax base, the 22% funds a lot, $609 million worth of things here in the county. But when you're looking at smaller counties and smaller cities, because it's like now you have to look at the municipal view. So what happens if these are passed? What happens to the municipality if this is the extreme that it's going to happen at the county level? This is just the county level, people. This is not diving into your municipalities on how that's going to affect your city budget. So it was made very clear on the dais during this workshop that that if something drastic does get passed by the voters in 2026, it may collapse some of our smaller municipalities across the state. I think that is part of the plan and that's what they want, that they want to get rid of some of these cities throughout the state. And
so they can have more government control.
So ultimately it will be more county control, which then becomes more state control.
Yes, which is insane because as conservatives, that's kind of the antithesis of what we want.
Yeah.
And it does make me very sus. It's sus, as the kids say these days. It's sus on why this is being pushed so hard. I mean, we have seen a large attack on home rule from the state government in the last few years, which is annoying considering it is a conservative government. You would think that they would be supporting local rule and like local entities and local governments to function in the way that our republic has been set up to do.
Yeah, I will say on the dais in this workshop is there was a lot of talk about that it was telling. I think it was Obrador that was the representative that was there that was talking to the county commissioners because he's the chair of
Oberdorf?
Is it Overdorf?
I think it's Overdorf. Toby Overdorf. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was taught. So the commissioners were very clear, like stop allowing the state needs to back off from and allow us to keep home rule. Though many of the commissioners mentioned that it's fine that they want to save taxpayer money. Like nobody disagreed with wanting to save taxpayer money. But it was like and it was brought up $40 million of just unfunded mandates brought down from the state. So you can't take away our funding, not give us alternatives to funding, and then tax us for $40 million and say, you have to pay this now. And so I think that it's going to be not for nothing, I think Palm Beach County is very structured in a way and give good arguments. Even the representative said, like, Todd Van Leeuwen, like, represented the county very well and was very articulate and like, these are the problems. Like, we want to, and I want to be very clear, everybody on that dais was like, we want to save the taxpayer money. So it's not like they're like, no, they should be taxed more. None of them were saying, oh, they're millionaires here, they should be paying more in taxes.
Right.
Nobody is saying that here. They're all saying, saying we're all for giving the taxpayers a break, but then what questions
And then what?
is happening actually ahead of time this time.
Finally.
I'm like 3 years of us being on a podcast is now when they start to finally get.
Maybe they're listening,
Maybe
Jessica.
they're listening.
We're not just talking to the ether.
So it's like they're starting to see like, okay, if that's fine if you want to save taxpayer money, but then you can't give us unfunded mandates and then not open up streams of revenue.
Yeah.
And then, it was very clear too that Obrador said that they have a whole manual that can be given to counties and municipalities on how to increase revenue.
What?
So there are different ways that you can increase revenue, whether it's through service fees or program, like whatever. I don't know the details. I haven't read it. I couldn't tell you. But they do have it where you can just call the state and say, I want to know what our options are for, increasing revenue if we make this cut. And so that can be something that can be kind of looked at and planned ahead. And then things should be moving at the state level of increasing where tax dollars can come from to pay for services.
Right, because that's something we've talked about on the show before. But it just, again, if you're new or have a reminder, everyone, because I go on X or Instagram or wherever, people are talking about abolish property taxes, and a lot of people ask this question. Okay, well then how are we going to pay for things like the sheriff's department or the fire department or the police department? Excuse me. And a lot of the responses people get is, increase sales taxes, increases. Those taxes are designated for specific things. You can't just take sales taxes and pay the sheriff's department with them. It doesn't work like that from the state level. So the state has to be very involved in that. And so it's like this weird thing where we want them to be involved because if they're going to, but we also don't want them to be involved. We want them to be like, if they're going to make laws on some things, then they need to adjust for the other things. But yeah, the whole coming down on home rule is just, I don't like it. I really don't.
No.
It's not a good look for a Republican-led government, and it could cause the whole thing to swing the other way. Because people are going to get fed up with it. Because if the state keeps mandating things and the state keeps restricting local governments from being able to function in what their job is, eventually people are going to get ticked off. They're going to go to their local government, and the local government's going to point the finger and go, you got to go to the state. Yeah. They're going to go to the state and say, well, you know what? The state's not doing, I'm going to vote the other direction next time.
Right.
Because we see a conservative Republican government, and we're seeing less and less of our home life conserved, so to speak.
One thing that was very interesting is what Blaise Ngolia said was that if you took away that $344 million, the average taxpayer in Palm Beach County would save between $300 and $400 a year.
Wait, could you repeat that, please?
So if you were to take away that $344 million, the average taxpayer would save between $300 and $400 a year.
That's not that much.
No, it's not.
I mean, yes, it's a lot. Sure, it is a lot. It's money being saved from the government all the time. But that's really we're not talking thousands of dollars here.
Ta-da!
Good grief! Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? This is going to implode cities. And the thing is that's really frustrating too, is I just, but Boca just went through the budgets. Boca cut millions of dollars from its budget. They're doing what they're supposed to do. They're we can cut here.
But then they're going to go after more money on the ballot, I thought. They're
doing a bond. So it wasn't they're doing a bond. They have a bond on the ballot to rebuild the police department, which really needs it. Listen, I'm not saying that Boca's done great things in the past. I'm saying what they did this year was really good.
Okay.
And so the people who were on the
except for
I'm not going to name any names. I'm going to get myself in trouble. I live in a small city where I see these people and things. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so we'll talk about Boca in a little bit. But
Like I said, all of this, and then it's only looking to save about $300 to $400 a year. If you were to just take Blaze and say, okay, let's do away. You have 609 million. We're just going to cut 344.
I wonder how many jobs we're going to be cutting for people to like.
And that's the thing. It's like we don't have enough people in the departments to run this. And then the people who are there, you have to pay them because they're doing 2, 3, 4 jobs.
It's not that simple.
It's not as simple as what people want it to, wish it would be. And like I said, like the biggest thing that I have heard the last 2 years was the sheriff's budget's out of control. And yet when you really look at it,
it's the most fiscally responsible department in the whole county.
So,
golly.
And that's coming from a Republican CFO
to a Democrat sheriff.
So
you can't write this stuff, y'all. You couldn't make this up if we tried.
So I think the point is that a lot of people here, especially in our Republican Party, and I'm not saying, I'm not going to call anybody out individually, but it just shows that when you look at when you look at things, you have to look at the 360 degree
holistic view.
You cannot just pick out the things that you're unhappy with and say that you want those things changed. It doesn't work that way. And when, I can only speak for myself. When I started looking at the budget, when, Commissioner, Woodward got in to office, and I mean, literally the whole big stack.
Stack with the budget.
It's like a 2-inch
like binder.
It's a 2-inch binder. And when you look through, and I'm not saying like I didn't find some things that were a little shady or a little questionable, it's like the office of, is it equal opportunity? Maybe that was the one that it was. Like they all had their own vehicles. Like why do they all have their own vehicles that are county vehicles? So it's like, there's some things that
I really want to know the information services. Why that's so expensive?
Yeah. Well, it's probably newspaper ads because we had to do, we had to keep having notices and.
I thought we got rid of those.
Did we end up getting rid of it?
Yeah. And Palm Beach Post threw a whole hissy fit about it.
Yes. That's
Remember?
right. That's right. And so, Channel 20 is probably part of that.
I wonder if that's like, oh yeah, Channel 20 and probably like our website.
Yep.
Which is probably very expensive.
Yeah, I'm sure. To maintain. And like I said, they're doing a great job because all of this information was right up on the website immediately.
To maintain that takes a lot.
Yeah. So there's a lot of information that needs to get through. And that's everybody's biggest complaint is things happen and we don't know, but people don't know where to look to find the information.
That's why we're here.
Exactly. So if you know where to look to find the information. Oh, and another thing, before I forget, I'm going to totally shift gears, is the SOE's website in Palm Beach County has been revamped. So it's completely different. So if you've been keeping track of me or followed anything that I've done recently, I know that I have shared like the vote by mail request form that we've been sharing out to some municipalities and given to some campaigns. So if you've seen it, all of the links are broken now because we had no idea that they were revamping the website. So be on the lookout for that. So if you look, it's still like kind of their candidates, announced candidates. You can see who's, currently running county level, but it's kind of changed around a little bit. I've gotten a lot of complaints, people have made a lot of complaints. I don't like it. I think it's just new. I think it's pretty. I think things are pretty generally easy to find still, but it does look different. And if you followed any of the information that I've given you over the last 6 months, it's not valid anymore. So I will be putting together, that aspects and maybe I will share it out on our socials and stuff once I get that updated so that you have the most current and up-to-date information.
Yeah.
So yes, the SOE website has been changed. Our very own Michael Barnett was appointed by DeSantis for the 15th Circuit Court here in Palm Beach County.
Congratulations.
So congratulations, honorable Michael Barnett. So that was pretty cool to hear about that. He was actually at the press conference today.
For those who don't know, Michael Barnett has been a diehard active person in the Republican Party for a very long time.
30 plus years.
Yeah, a very long time.
And he's only like 48.
Yes.
He's my age.
Basically, yeah. So pretty much since like he was like 20. Like teenager.
Yeah.
He was a delegate for President Trump in
Yep.
2016 under threats. Many
Yep.
threats that he received to not vote for President Trump as a delegate, as an electorate, not a delegate, electorate. Anyway, I just think that's pretty cool. He's had a pretty long career in politics and being involved. And
he was appointed to the Palm Beach County County Commission, and then he did not win his reelection. So this was his next
step.
So
Congratulations.
we wish him the best of luck, and I think Palm Beach County is lucky to have him. I think we have some really great judges right now, so I'm very excited about that and what the future holds. One last thing about the conference today. Was it Toll Brothers that was there?
What were they doing there?
Started with a C.
Yeah, sorry.
Is it a developer?
I didn't write it down because I was still listening in the car on the way to film the podcast today. But there was a construction owner. I can't remember his name, and I apologize. But on our X page, I shared the whole press conference so you can actually watch it from start to finish. The man that spoke was in construction. He said right now, new homes, the cost of homes, 29% just go to fees.
Fees?
Fees. Various government fees. 29%.
That's insane.
He said that there's so much pushback of doing affordable homes, building affordable homes. He goes, we can't do it. He said, we can't even put a shovel in the ground because there's no money. Once you pay the 29% in fees to build the home, he said there's no profit. He goes, there's zero. We cannot run on zero.
I mean, I know whenever we have not done a lot of work on our house, but every time you do, the hold up, and they're like, oh yeah, and here's your this is what you have to pay for the inspector, and you have to pay for this, you have to pay this fee, and this permit, and this, and this. And I'm always like, what? Just to do, like, you have to get like a permit. And to some degree, I understand it because it's like you're eventually going to sell the house and safety and all that. But honestly, if we were living in a real responsible society, you wouldn't have to do that because then the onus would be on the new owner to make sure that the house is sound properly and like there are no issues. And then that goes to private sale part. Like you say, okay, well, there's an issue here. You did something bad on the window, fix it, or I'm not buying the house. Like it's taking that. It's just like the nanny state. Yeah. It's the nanny state of government where like, oh, no, you can't be trusted to put in your own window. We have to make sure you put your window in properly so we can collect our fee. Yeah. And I just think it's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. When I see that, it makes me like rageful. And I'm like, so what? Yeah.
So it's like, this is the problem. So it's like we have a housing crisis here. And then it's like, well, if you want to build new homes, you can't even make them affordable because you have a 30%, fee on top of that to be able to just put a shovel in the ground. And it gets a little ridiculous. And then don't even get me started. I think that there's a lot of illegal immigrants and stuff that are getting a lot of our money here in Palm Beach County. I'm trying to dig into it. I know they're getting a lot of money from the school board.
There was something I just
But
saw.
I'm very curious on how much. And if we stop funding our, these departments and if, we stop getting funding from the state and the government for some of these programs, there's going to be a lot of programs that are going to go away in Palm Beach County, which then is that going to create a crisis?
Oh, yeah, well, hopefully people will self-deport
because
if it's illegal,
I will never forget there was a meeting, and I'm not going to go into much details about who or anything of that nature, but I was privy to some information about a service that we provide here in Palm Beach County, and somebody who was a recipient of those services says, oh, we tell all of our friends in other states to move here because if you move here, you get all of these services for free. So that's what's happening here in Palm Beach County. And I know a lot of our commissioners are like, we provide so many services and we're going to have, but it's like, at what point is it enough where it's like, we're actually drawing people here to take
advantage of our system.
Right, exactly.
And our goodwill.
Right. So it's like, it's where they kind of play our humanity against us. And this is where the Democrats win a lot of times, because they're like, oh, you just, you don't care about the homeless. I'm sorry. I do care about the homeless, but the homeless is not my responsibility if we fund it locally, the state level, the federal level, and how many nonprofits do we have that all combat homelessness, but we still have homelessness.
There's still someone hanging out in front of the library every time I go,
right?
And in the library every time I go in Boca Raton,
right? So it's like, at what point do we say they just want to be homeless, like,
and they're not allowed to be homeless here,
right? So it's like it's just. This is going to be very interesting as it comes. I say the next, 1 to 5 years as this plays out is going to be very interesting on how it actually irons itself out. And I'm sorry to say, and you can mark it, it's going to get worse before it gets better.
I agree. And I just saw this post right before you said that. CFO Blaise Ingoglia is targeting loopholes that incentivize illegal immigration, including a current statute that allows illegal aliens to receive workers' comp benefits. He says the legislation will deny these benefits and deter entities that profit from unauthorized labor. And there's an article here. I'm going to repost it on our X page to make sure you're following us there. So you're right. Good job.
There is a lot of,
that's probably just the tip of the iceberg.
And it's very interesting because somebody told me like it's going to affect our elections because, Republicans are being so forceful of like getting illegals out of our country and out of our state and out of our county. And we're being told by a lot of, minority communities that are here legally that have, Republican views, that they will not vote for Republicans anymore because they want to deport their families. And so that's a concern because
we talked about that.
Yeah, we talked about that the last episode. And so when it's just one of those things that I'm like I just said, that's going to have to get worse before it gets better. And unfortunately, with the state of hardly being able to afford to live here as it is. And then once we start to find out and uncover how many people are getting services that the average taxpayer can't afford or are not privy to, it's going to get really ugly, I think.
Could get really ugly, yeah. Maybe it'll cause a swing of voting the other way. I don't know. We'll see. All right. So a couple of things. There's some AI stuff. I don't have a lot of details, but I'm going to be reposting it on our X page. So make sure you're following us there. But something that's being looked at from the state is the AI Bill of Rights. So just kind of something to keep an eye on. As I already talked about the Solid Waste Authority. So in Boca, Save Boca was supposed to have a vote. So I've talked about this before, but it's basically like there's this movement in Boca to try to have a charter amendment a change to our charter, where if the council would like to either lease or sell any city-owned land that's bigger than, I believe it's either half or 3/4 of an acre, that it has to go to a vote by the residents of the city. So they got enough signatures to get this on the ballot. And so it was scheduled but it had to be done within 60 days of the signatures being submitted. The vote had to happen within 60 days. That deadline would have been January 6th. But the supervisor of elections said, I'm not running an election at that time. You have to pick a day that I already have an election scheduled for, which is January 13th, because there's a special election January 13th. So they scheduled it for then. Well, a resident in Boca sued because that does not follow the charter amendment laws, and they won. And so the judge put a stay on the charter vote happening in Boca for January 13th because it did not follow the charter amendment laws.
Oh, crap.
So, which I find highly, highly ironic, because here's the thing. The biggest problem, there's many problems with this charter amendment, but one of the biggest problems is we don't run our own elections. Our elections are run through the supervisor of elections. We do some of the paperwork. Our clerk of courts does some of it, but everything gets sent to the supervisor of elections. The ballots get printed, counted, collected. But
that's also by choice, because the cities could do it themselves.
The cities could do it themselves, but the city's not going to do that.
Right,
so
exactly.
This is the situation we're in. So that would have to be another change, I'm guessing, to the charter amendment to try to get a charter. And that's so by choice. This is how it's set right now. So the supervisor of elections determines and decides some of these things. So the very fact that we couldn't even get this to a ballot shows the biggest problem with this charter change, that if the city wants to execute a lease agreement with a nonprofit or with I use this as an example all the time, the Boca Art Museum, which is owned by the city, the land is owned by the city, and they have a lease agreement with the art museum to have the museum there, and they have that renewal coming up, that would have to go to a vote. And if the supervisor of the residents of the city and the supervisor election says, no, I don't have we're giving you the resources to have that election, then there's a chance that lease could get not executed, and then we lose our Boca Art Museum. So
but some people will go, oh, that's fine. They should lose it.
They'll lose it. But see, that's not cool. That's not what we want as a city. Like, that's not why we're living there. Mm-hmm. And so, so just to me, the irony of the fact that they couldn't even get this on the ballot is one of the biggest reasons why this shouldn't even be on the ballot to begin with.
But part of the reason why Boca is able to do some of those things too is because they still get money from the county for their CRA as well. So that's a whole nother issue that was brought up in that workshop meeting too. Is that I think it's $87 million. I think that we still have to give to municipalities for their CRAs that run through the county. So
that's going to be sunsetted. I can guarantee you they're going to get rid of CRAs in the next year.
Well, they should. They definitely should. And it's been something, it's like you have Boca that has, a very large tax base, and it's basically getting money from the county every year.
Yes, we are. No, I agree. That's a whole other thing. But I don't disagree with you on that. But actually, I'm pretty sure that the museum is on in. And then the other issue, there's many issues with the Save Boca thing, but another big issue is getting people what is it? A third, not even a third, like 15% of people vote for mayor in our city. You're not going to get people to come out on a random day to vote on a piece of property that they know nothing about on the other side of town to be leased to the dog park. Like, that's what they're talking about here. And it's the most, and so I understand. And here's the other thing that really drives me nuts. I had someone ask me this last night. They're like, so where do you stand? Are you pro Save Boca or anti Save Boca? And I said, the premise of your question is the biggest problem with this entire thing. Because if I say I'm anti Save Boca, then you're like, oh, you don't want Boca to be saved. You don't want Boca to be great. Yeah. You don't want Boca to be beautiful. You're pro developer. No. I just don't think the process by which they're going about this is the correct way to do it. If we don't like what the city council is doing, we fire the city council. Right. We don't just take their job away and take the power away and put it into the hands of the mob.
That don't educate
that don't know anything. And I asked this is the gentleman I was talking to. I was like, let me ask you, do you know everything about all the city-owned property in the city, and you can make an educated decision on every single lease that or purchase or whatever it might go? No? Okay, then why would we do this? Why would we do this? And so it's the most we just got to get this message out. People need to. So anyway, so the vote's not happening, but it could be added to the March ballot. So it still could happen. It's just not happening January 13th.
Well, and this is what happens. You go from overcompensation, right? So nobody paid attention for a really long time. So now everybody
we've got 15 people running for council and mayor in the city, whereas you couldn't get anybody to run before.
This is where it gets better, or this is where it gets worse before it gets better, because then it's like you kind of have, and this is what's happened in our Republican Party too. We have a lot of recovering Democrats in our party that are trying to think that they know everything and that they know it better, but they're only
because they're still Democrats in their mentality. Exactly. And that's they like to control us and tell us all how we should live our lives, and we're all like, no, go away. Just because you put an R in front of your name does not mean I want you telling me what to do.
100%.
Like, I still am who I am. I have not changed. My values have not changed. I have not changed who I am, and leave me alone. Like, that's just been my thing from 2020. I got involved because I want you to freaking leave me alone. Ultimately,
in the REC, we need to come up with a Democrats recovery program that you kind of have to go through and say, this is a Democrat view, this is a Republican view, this is where you get from here to here.
This is how you get from here to here. Exactly. So I am going to be speaking loud about this whole thing and really pushing back against the Save Boca emotional shtick that is really coming up because I don't like it. And there's a lot of also kooky Democrats that are in the Save Boca world.
Really?
Yeah, there's a few. And then like there's a few very hardcore Republicans that are in it too. And I'm like, hey guys, we don't all want the same thing. Just because you want this thing to be the same, you need to be careful because the way you want it and the way you want it are two very different things. And if you try to come together, like, it's going to backfire on somebody. Like, it's going to backfire. Like, this is not going to end well.
It's going to get icky.
It's going to get icky. And, like, the thing is it'll halt the progress of the city. And I'm not saying for the record, I am not for big development. I'm not for massive changes to the infrastructure. I love my small town.
Of it might be good.
Some slowing down. I like to see redevelopment. I would like to see our city really look at the future and say, okay, what do we have to do now? What do we need to do 10 years from now? And how do we get there instead of being so reactionary, which is how the city's been for the last few years.
Well, I think so many of our municipalities have this problem, right? Because so many councils and commissions and stuff have kicked this can down the road. Yeah. And
because they're not governing for today and for the people that they represent today, they're governing for their next job.
Correct.
And so when we allow that, then they just are like, well, someone else will deal with it. Someone else will deal with it. So that's how we have to stop that from happening. That's where our passion needs to be and our focus needs to be. If we want to save Boca or save your municipality, it needs to be pushing the people that you've elected to do a better job at their job, not cutting them off at the knees.
Yeah. And
really understanding what the process is for these things. Like, again, this whole thing stemmed from the Centennial. It's not Centennial Park. I always call it that, but it's Memorial Park. Memorial Park being redeveloped, which is like the government campus in downtown Boca. And it needs it. Like, it needs something.
It reminds me of like a 1980s, the community
so
center.
Bad. It's so poorly reflective of who we are as a city.
A 1980s elementary school. That's what it reminds me of.
Flickering lights, the whole thing.
It's like green and yellow.
Yeah, it's terrible. Ooh. And so like, it's not reflective of who we are as a city, and it needs to be. And so it needs to be addressed. And so is this the best way? The way that the city council has done it? No. But guess what? The outcry of the people was good. And I think it's awesome that the city council meetings have been packed with people sharing their voices and speaking out, because it has adjusted what the developer wants to do and what the city council is looking at. It has made a change. The thing is and that's what needs to happen, not neutering them.
Yeah. And I think what happens is that they end up seeing, the humanity of these developers and stuff. Like, they're not out to hurt residents.
Some are, but this developer's not.
Some are, and it's all about the dollar. But in the most part, if you're in construction, and I used to work in construction, and worked around a lot of contractors, and it was like, they just wanted to build nice things and, have places for people to go, or nice homes, or, whatever else. Like, yes, they wanted to make money, but there was purpose behind it. And, I think this is one reason why everybody loves Trump, because there was purpose behind his building. He wanted it to be beautiful. He didn't want just a concrete building, to take up space. He wanted it to mean something. And I think a lot of builders that get into it have that kind of philosophy. Mm-hmm. They don't necessarily, yes, they want to make money. I don't want to say that they don't. Mm-hmm. And they want to make as much money as possible. And, but also at the same time, there's purpose behind it. And I think that the key word that you said there, Josie, that we need to really be focusing on as we go through is redevelopment.
Yes.
We need proper, good infrastructure and redevelopment, because our population has increased. So having these, single line strip
88,000.
Right. Having these single line, strip malls and things like that, when most people do things on Amazon. And I'm not saying like we should get away with, do away with mom and pop types things. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying we need to adjust to be able to make it a little bit more convenient, and also more aesthetically pleasing, and make it that it's actually increasing value without, causing traffic issues and problems and things
and that
of
stays
that
with the aesthetics and design of the city too.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big thing for me. Like, we've chosen to live in Boca for a reason, and I like the way Boca looks. I like pink, the Boca pink. I like the Addison style architecture. Like, I think it's beautiful, and I think that is iconic to the city. And I think that what we do, it doesn't mean we need to have everything look that way, but I think there needs to be respect, compliments to it, and respect to the history of the city. Yeah. And whatever development that is done needs to have that, because that's what gives our children identity of connecting to the city that they live in and the place they live, and they want to be there, and they feel it. And I see that. Like, we went to the parade last night, and like, my kids love going. They love being a part of all of the things that are happening in the city, and we see people walk by on the floats that we know. Their friends are in the parade. We were in the parade last year. We weren't in it this year. And it's part of like that community feeling. And when our buildings and our architecture and our design reflects that, people want to stay and people want to raise their families here. And that's ultimately what we want.
Does Boca have a historic board that runs through the city?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, because it's that's what's done. This is our centennial. We're wrapping it up just now. It's our centennial year is 22. The city was founded in 1926.
But there's actually
there's a historic board.
There's a historic board.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yeah.
Because that's the job of the historic board, is to keep the history of the city going, so people are educated of the city and know how the city has progressed over time, and to take that history with what's coming and kind of be able to meld those together. And this is why government should move slowly, is so that all of those things can kind of be taken into consideration, and then that puzzle piece, the next puzzle piece of the future kind of gets put into the picture that had already started to be created. Yeah. And, Boynton's really good about this too. Like, their historic, community board or whatever.
Yeah, their historic preservation board's very good. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you have Boca and Delray and Boynton. Like, there's a lot of generational history here. People who have been born here, raise their families here, and a lot of times their families stay here. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's one of the things that make, at least southeast point of Palm Beach County so unique and interesting, because you do have those historic facts. It's like Pearl City and mm-hmm. Boca. It's like
there's actually the old City Hall in downtown Boca is the Boca Museum.
Yeah.
So if you on what is that? Federal? Yes, Federal.
Yeah. So,
and that's so you can go in there, and they have the whole history of all the things. Addison Meisner,
you happen
the monkeys.
Yeah, you happen to mention that 15% choose your mayor. We have a special election going on in State House District 90, which is Boca and Boynton.
Not Boca.
Or Boynton and Delray. I apologize for that. We were just talking about Boca. So
because we're the center of the world. No, I'm just kidding. I kid.
But State House 90, that special election is going on right now. There is a 6% turnout, and the election day, the early voting's going on right now. People have gotten their mail-in ballots, but election day is next Tuesday, and there's literally 6% turnout.
Oh, those polling sites must be quiet and boring.
Yeah. And just for historic purposes, just to give you a little data, State House 90 is like a D+10. And so right now, Democrats that have voted are 3,924. This is as of today. Republicans that have voted is 1,551. And those with no party affiliation, 879. And those that are other, because you can pick, random parties here, is 122. So it definitely looks like if they vote party lines, there is no possibility for Maria Zack to win this race.
Shocker.
So
color me shocked, y'all.
Especially with only a 6% turnout. The likelihood of that going up to 10% as of Tuesday, not very likely.
It's pretty slim. It's rough. It's a rough time of year, and this election is costing, again, so going back to budgets, mm-hmm. when you have special elections, which the state of Florida has had so many special elections because, they decided
they stole all of our
the Trump administration decided to poach every single person from our state and cause all this shifting and whatnot. And then, unfortunately, we had the death of Joe Costello, which is what triggered this special election. Virginia retiring is triggering the special election in District 87. Like, it's just like this whole trickle. But that, like, our supervisor of elections in our counties, like, they have to plan for that in their budgets because these elections cost millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Like, it cost $500,000. I believe it was almost more than $500,000 just for the Republican primary for this District 90 election.
Yep.
And then this general one is even more because it's both parties. So just that's what, like, when we're, it's not like,
And
we're
so
just
then
like, when
the SOE comes for her budget next year, she's going to say, well, I had to make up for all of these special elections that weren't in my previous budget that took from this budget. So now I have to make up. And so I'm asking for X number of dollars.
And since they're state level elections, they have to have early voting.
Correct.
So that's a thing. And then you have to pay staff and location and all kinds of stuff for early voting. Which, again, going back to this not being on the ballot in January 13th, that's going to save the city of Boca Raton $500,000, at least $250,000, $250,000, because it was going to cost that amount to have that one question on the ballot in January, which for people who pushed for the vote no a couple of years ago to not extend terms and that whole thing, that one ballot question.
It was $250,000.
We can't be hypocrites. Like, you can't support this and say, oh, yeah, let's spend the money for this. This is worth it. This is not worth it. This can be put on the March ballot. There's got to be a way to do it. Or if there's not, then too bad, so sad. This is the whole point of the whole thing. If we can't get this thing, last thing. We would have to pay every single time they want to execute a lease. It will cost the city $250,000 to have a stupid election.
That's a good point.
Like,
That's a really good.
Where is that money coming from?
That only 10 to 15% of the residents will turn out for it. If it's special, like I said, this is a state house 90. So this is, I don't know exactly how many voters are in. Do you know offhand? Do you remember?
I did know. I don't remember. 150,000 maybe.
Yeah, I want to.
20,000.
Yeah, I want to say it's not a whole lot. So, but it's two pretty good sized municipalities of Boynton and Delray that encompass State House 90. So just kind of think about that for a minute. Is that it's like
the amount that the amount that the county is paying for this election per vote is really high.
Oh God, yes.
And so, like, if we go back to this, to the ballot question for the charter amendment, the cost per vote for that, for each and every lease. I don't think people realize how many leases that how much property the city owns that then they would have to, like, that they lease with nonprofits, with like dog shelters and then they'll just Boca Helping Hands and
they'll just stop it because
they're not gonna they're gonna charge that to probably the entity and say, okay, well, if you want to execute the lease, you're gonna have to pay us the $250,000 because that's not in the city budget to have this election every single time. But nobody in Save Boca, if you bring that up to them, they look at you like you're insane and say that they'll figure that out. I kid you not.
You're not supposed to ask the and then what
I
question,
can't.
Josie.
I'm not supposed to ask that of anybody, apparently. Golly. All right, that's all I got. Okay, couple quick things, housekeeping things before we wrrap up. This is our last episode of the year because we have decided to forego doing an episode towards the end of the month. It's just a crazy month, crazy time. It's also slow politically. There's not a lot of stuff. We think.
There's a lot going on. I don't want to say that there's not a lot going on. There is. The thing of it is it's not going to be able to shape its way out until well into January anyway. So we're just going to kind of, let the 48-hour thing hold, let it run its cycle. Yeah. And then we'll be able to determine, because I know there's a lot of people going to start running, announcing in January for the races and stuff that they're going to run.
January's going to kick off hot.
So right now it's just all just rumors and I don't think it's fair to our listeners to just gossip and this could happen, this could not happen, and we don't want to out anybody if they're not ready or if they're not really going to file. So I'd much rather have that chessboard set. And then we still don't, qualifying's not done till June. So,
it's going to be the wild west for several months.
You're going to see a lot of people file January, February, and then you're going to see a lot of people file in June, just before May and June, just before the deadlines end. Yeah. So, I think it's good of us to take a break, enjoy the holiday, Celebrate with your family.
If anybody has a hankering to see the Nutcracker, please let me know. I'm balls deep in the Nutcracker rehearsals.
Take a small break from politics for the holiday season. Start with us fresh in January, because we are going to have a whole mess of information coming at you so fast you're not even going to be able to think straight.
Drinking from a fire hose.
And your head's going to spin. So we want to keep you informed, and this is why we do the long format that we do. A lot of people's like, oh, it's 2 hours or whatever that you guys talk, but as you can tell, you watch our episodes, it's just nonstop information. So, and we only highlight just
we're only like touching on little bits. I mean, and we're going to start when we come back in January. Session will have kicked off as well.
Correct.
So we'll have some updates on bills that will be that will be recommending.
I will be
people
going to
keeping
Palm
an eye
Beach
on.
County Days as well.
Yes.
So that is the 13th and 14th. So that will be our second.
That'll be our second episode. So our first episode in January will be. I actually should have looked at the calendar beforehand. Will be,
and we may have a special guest that episode.
It will not be the first Thursday in January, because that is January 1st.
Oh, it is.
It is. So we'll probably do January 8th and 22nd, because there's 5 Thursdays. So just throwing that out there. We're live discussion on our calendar.
New Year's Day, I don't understand.
Well, I don't like to do anything on New Year's Day because my children are party animals and they like to stay up all night on third.
Let's try to drop by the 8th, but I think that the RPOF is that weekend too, and then I go straight into Palm Beach County Days. So that will be a little crazy.
We'll watch our socials for our updated dates.
But we'll plan on dropping an episode by the 8th.
By the 8th. Okay, perfect. So I'll just say happy Hanukkah for everyone celebrating. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Hope you get to spend time with your family and enjoy. Have a happy and safe holiday season.
Well, as always, Josie, it's been a great opportunity, and it's been great talking with you all year.
Yeah.
And I have so much fun doing this podcast with you. And, we've gotten lots of, people interested in our podcast and getting, encouraging us to do some changes along the way. So we'll see how those things pan out. But people are very interested in what we're doing. We are going to have
guests. Sorry, I wanted to say too. We do have some guests that we're lining up with our new space. We wanted to give it a couple of times to figure out how we're going to do that. So we've got some ways that we're going to do it. So stay tuned, because we've been having a lot of requests of guests to come on. As
people announce that people want to get more involved, I know that there are some candidates that do want to, help sponsor our show. So it's going to be very exciting coming next year. We're going to have a lot of great things coming for you, and a lot of guests and a lot of information. Like Josie said, it's going to be coming out of a fire hose, and it's going to be nonstop until next November. So here's to a prosperous, happy new year for 2026. Yes. I wish all of your dreams come true. I hope Santa gives you something really good, and I hope the Hanukkah bear does too. I just want to say thank you for supporting our show. Thank you for watching. You can follow us on Instagram, We The Locals FL, on X, We The Locals FL. We talked about several things that we posted on X just today, so be sure to follow us. As things are happening, we'll make sure that we try to post as much as we can to keep you as informed as possible. You can follow us at We The Locals on Facebook. Our website is wethelocalspodcast.com. You can check out all of our channels, links, go right to our episodes directly from our website. If you subscribe on our website, then you get the links pushed directly to your email. So you just open up your email, you get to click, and it plays the most recent episode in there. So be sure to go onto our website, wethelocalspodcast.com, and actually subscribe. Also subscribe on our channels, YouTube and Rumble. Now, Spotify, our Spotify listeners, I apologize. I realized I have not uploaded an episode on Spotify since March.
Oh, okay.
So not that we had very many subscribers on there. I think only a couple. So that's fine, but I am starting to upload those. So I got about 10 more episodes to add plus this one. So if you are a Spotify Spotify subscriber, you're probably getting a lot of updates that we've uploaded all of these episodes. So I do apologize. This was something that Abby took care of when
Abby.
she was here. And I was aware of it, but it just kind of went over my head and I completely forgot to upload the episodes onto Spotify when I upload onto YouTube and Rumble. So I take full responsibility for that, and I do apologize. If you want to email us, if you have questions, concerns, anything about our podcast that you want clarification on or more information, or maybe something we didn't get right and you want to let us know, you can email us at wethelocalsfl@gmail.com. We'll be happy to hear and listen to all of your comments and your information. If you live in a municipality that you want some highlight to or want to give us some information, email us. We would be happy to talk about other municipalities throughout the county.
I mean, I talk about Boca because I live here.
Yeah, and I kind of follow Boynton and Delray, and I'm starting to follow Gardens because I actually talked to a candidate the other day. So there's definitely lots. There's 39 municipalities in Palm Beach County.
So if you have a municipality that you want us to talk about, send it to us. We'll do it.
Give us the information. If you want to highlight anything, we want to make sure that you're represented and that people in your area know what's going on in your municipality. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. I actually handed a representative my card the other day that they were like, hey, you got something wrong. I'm like, you are more than welcome to set the record straight anytime. Here's my card. So we have lots of representatives and stuff that watch our show. So thank you for watching and keeping us in the know. Definitely appreciate it. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Have a great night, everybody, and stay local.
Bye.
Bye.